Welcome to Under the Bus, where three old guys have not only been on a few buses, but have probably been under a few buses in our time. Talk about the virtues of sport, but also throw a lot of sports people under the bus. I'm Bob Stevens from ESPN SportsCenter's Glory Days, joined by Curry Kirkpatrick of Sports Illustrated's Glory Days and Hall of Fame coach Rich Basirico, who is reliving Glory Days through his old school that just won a state championship. We'll get back to that in just a moment. Probably our big story of the week is the phenomenon, I guess they're calling it, called court storming. Been going on forever. The latest incident, though, at Wake Forest, where the Deacons beat Duke over the weekend. The students stormed the court. Duke center Kyle Filipowski sprained his knee. Not sure when he's going to play next. Duke coach John Shire and other coaches now want to ban court storming in college basketball. Curry, you have seen a lot of court storming in your day. Where you fall on this?
Well, of course, I'm coming from this from two angles here. First of all, I'm a North Carolina guy, which makes me an anti-Duke fan, and I'm also a Wake Forest father. Both my daughters went to Wake Forest, so I watched this game, and I had I had a horse in the game. Of course, I think as a North Carolina guy, I think I texted you guy right after the game. It's Filipowski that went down, and of course, I think I texted something nasty, snarky, like, "I'm sorry you weren't fast enough to get off the court. Sorry, Wake Forest student body," because that aerial, and I called him something like Philip Pinball, because that aerial shot of him going down, I mean, it's like a pinball. He's like, hits a guy and a guy hits him, then he's going for another guy. He goes and he spins around at one time. It's like a pinball going back and forth. And, it's too bad. I hope he isn't hurt that badly. But Duke's reaction to this is what makes Duke Duke. I mean, we have the player, Filipowski, saying he was targeted and that it was deliberate. That's ridiculous. First of all, that's ridiculous. Right. You saw the arrow shot. Nobody knew where anybody else was.
Right.
That's number one. For Shire to come out and say, okay, we want banning of court storms. Where was he? He mentioned Caitlin Clark in his post-game thing, but where was he when Caitlin Clark got smashed a few weeks ago? I didn't hear Shire say anything about that. Where was he when the Duke football crowd stormed their field when they beat Clemson earlier this year? That wasn't a dangerous court storm. I didn't hear Shire, come out and say, "Oh, we want it banned." It's just because it's Duke is Duke. Let me ask you this. If it wasn't Filipowski that got smashed, if it was like Duke's 12th man, would we have, and he got hurt, would we have heard anything about this?
Maybe not.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No,
let me ask you another one more question, then I'll shut up. What if this was Memphis? I'm sorry, Houston, which is number one now, they're playing Cincinnati on Tuesday night. What if it was Houston at Cincinnati? Cincinnati stormed the court, and Houston's star player, Jamal Shedd, who's a great player, he's a better player than Filipowski. He's going to make the All-America team. If he went down, would we be hearing anything about this? I'm not sure.
Maybe not. But you're going to think I'm crazy. I think he stuck his foot out as the student ran by. I really do. If you look at it closely, it looks like he puts his foot out. And when he spins around like a helicopter, come on, he didn't get hurt, hit that bad. I mean, yes, he did get hit, but he spun around like, come on, you're 6'8". You're a big guy.
Well, he's bigger than that. He's bigger than that.
Okay,
Rich, he's bigger. He's almost 7 feet.
Okay, and he got hit. He got spun around that hard, and then the coach runs out there like he's crying. You see his expression on his face, holding on to him like he's a little child. Where's the rest of the Duke players? Why didn't they get hit? I mean, he's the only one that got hit, and I don't know. I think it's bad that the students went on it because someone could seriously get hurt, but I think that was an exaggeration of what him spinning around and people holding on to him and police.
Well, of course, our Carolina fans' name for Filipowski has always been Flopkowski because he's been flopping for his 2 years at Duke. He flops all the time, so we're calling him Flopkowski. He's also in the great tradition of all. This is all the Duke dirtbag players coming home to roost in Filipowski. We have Leitner and J.J. Redick and Wojo and all these Duke dirtbag players that always play dirty. And, maybe it's karma coming back to roost here.
Bob, you think Curry doesn't like Duke?
Yeah, just a little bit, huh?
Well, now let me do the reasonable man. Let me get off the Duke, Carolina, Wake Forest deal and do the reasonable man interpretations. I think it is really dangerous. It's come to be maybe something that, but they talk about banning it. How are you going to ban it? Are you going to get like policemen guarding the rails? I think the Southeastern. I was surprised the ACC has not addressed this with fines because the Southeastern Conference has already fined. They've already fined LSU $100,000 for rushing the court against Kentucky, and of course Angel Reese was in the middle of that. If you're gonna fine people, they should probably fine her butt to keep off the court. But I don't know how you're gonna do that.
Well, the students, I mean, if the students know that the university can be fined $100,000, that makes no difference to them.
Doesn't care. No,
But
no.
has there been an announcement like prior, like 30 seconds before the game's over, like, hey, please do not, storm the court? Not that it's going to stop it. I'm staying with a dear friend, my college roommate right now in Fort Myers, and his wife said to me this morning, maybe they should have fraternities. Fraternities come around and appeal to them to stand around the court, like rotate and stand around the court, and not, kids are going to respect other kids, and maybe they don't. I don't know, who knows if they would or not. And maybe if you don't let kids on the court, you donate some money to their keg parties. I don't know. I mean, do something that it's appealing. I know that sounds crazy, but it's appealing to the student body that, hey, we're going to protect the players on both sides, and maybe the fraternities do something about it. I don't know. There's not enough policemen that you're going to put around the court that's going to prevent that from happening.
Well, it's a funny thing. I don't know if you guys were watching the game. I was watching. It was, what got lost in this. It was one of the terrific games of the season. There were like 14 ties, 14 lead changes, something like that. And about with 3 minutes to go, I could swear I heard on, they're open mics all around the courts now. And I could swear I heard during a timeout voices, from the sideline, and the guys saying, what are we going to do now if we win? Where are you going? Where are you going, like that? It sounded like there were some officials talking about, what to do if we actually won. This was like 2 or 3 minutes to go in the game when it was seesaw back and forth. Nobody knew who was going to win. But I could swear I heard that. And I thought to myself, there's putting in a plan here. But the plan was not a good one. And, Seth Greenberg on ESPN got on his high horse and, criticized the Wake Forest administration for not having a plan in place. Well, I think they had a plan, but it was so fast. This thing happened so fast.
Correct.
I think it was Bill Self in Kansas. He said he was watching it, and he said they came on the court so fast, almost before the buzzer sounded. And there's nothing you can do unless you have that security in place, long before that. And it can't be these, 75-year-old fat guys being your security, because they show a couple of those guys and they have no shot. They have no shot.
Yeah, I mean, they now have the local police are all surround the coaches in football to get them on and off the field.
Right.
They're there. There's a presence there. There should be more of a presence there. I was involved in what was going to be a court storming when I was in college 45 years ago. We wanted to storm. We had beaten our crosstown rival in their place, and we wanted to storm the court. And a few well-placed guys with badges on who had guns on their side probably talked us out of that pretty quickly.
Really?
That was considered to be not a very good idea. Now, kids don't seem to worry about that sort of thing too much.
The only thing I saw that did work about 3 weeks ago, there was a college game where the team anticipated students storming the court. They were the home team. They were upsetting a team. And the assistant coach stood up and put his hands up to the student section. And you could see him mouth like, please don't come, please don't. Kept on doing this for about 15, 20 seconds. And they didn't storm the court. They did
head
not
coaches
storm.
need to do that.
Well,
I
the
mean,
Wake Forest Duke in the Wake Forest Duke game, the Wake Forest coach called timeout with 2 seconds left. He called timeout, and that should give time for security to all come down and get gathered. But
and that should give
apparently,
time for him to hold up
Yeah.
his arms
Right.
and say, "Hey,
Right.
don't." The coach they might respect, and maybe that's the way to fix
well,
it.
there's also the matter of if it's not a close game, if it's going to be a court
Yeah.
storming, it's going to be when the losing coach, and I've seen the Rat do this in previous seasons. Krzyzewski, he pulled his team. They're going to get beat, and he gets his team off the court. The teams that aren't in the game before the game's over. He gets all his bench guys to go to the locker room. No handshake line and you just go to the locker room, get out of harm's way. Which brings up another point. Handshake lines. That to me,
This is a way to get rid of them.
I mean, and I think we've seen this year, there was a big brawl down. We talked about it last week in Texas, and they suspended 8 guys for a handshake line because they got in a big brawl.
Right.
And Rich and I talked about this week. What is the sense of these handshake lines? It should be like the NBA. The losing coach does not want to, and the players, they don't want to shake anybody's hands. They want to get out of it. So it's so fake. It's so fake that they go through the line, and it takes 2 or 3 minutes. It's like a ritual now. And Rich says, eliminate that, because when Rich coached, Rich, you didn't want to shake the guy's hand, right? After you lost.
No, after I lost, I wanted to go to the locker room. I didn't want to be out there on the court, People might be throwing stuff at us, I want to go to the locker room. No, and it's just like you don't even speak to people. People want to come by and say, tough game. I don't really want to talk. I mean, maybe that's not fair, but I just don't want to really talk to people. You lost. You got a lot of things on your mind, and you want to get to the locker room with the kids and speak with them. The last thing you want to do is hang around the court. That'd be a way to eliminate some of the stuff going on. Like Curry just said, get the kids off the floor. You know there's going to be an upset. Get them off the floor. Get them in the locker room, and you eliminate the handshake. And where you had some problems this year, Justin talked about USCB having some issues with guys shaking hands and starting fights. Like, eliminate that.
Yeah. Good call there.
And to get back to the Wake Duke game, I don't know. The game ended with a Duke kid throwing the ball to Filipowski, who fumbled the ball out of bounds, and that was it. And Wake Forest would get the ball; they're going to win the game. Right. And Filipowski was on the side of the court, away from the locker rooms. And then when they rush to court, he kind of wanders around in the middle of the court like he doesn't know where he is or what's happening. I mean, all the other Duke players were able to get off the court.
Right,
What's the deal with this guy? He was like wandering around. He was like wandering around like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I am. And he got his butt blasted. Right. Get off the court. Come on.
Want to ask you two guys if you saw any court storming last night when Mississippi Valley State beat Prairie View. It was Mississippi Valley State's first win of the year. They are now 1-27. They are the last team to win a game. There was actually the team that won its first game just a couple of weeks ago. Detroit Mercy had a court storming. They had one guy.
One guy, yeah. That was great, yeah.
And there was nobody for him to storm with. It
one guy
walked out at the title game.
That's the best.
Was great.
That's you do storming. You just identify one person that can storm the court.
There you go. Yeah. Well, now
solved the problem.
What do you think? What do you think of Seth Greenberg's other plan? Take the teams into the crowd. The team celebrate. They go into the crowd. Apparently, they do this at a couple of places in the Big 12, Texas Tech or somewhere. After the game, the players go up into the crowd to celebrate with the students. What's that all about? I mean, come on. Students want to run down in the court.
I saw a coach do that recently, going in the crowd and was celebrating with the student body. I forget which coach that was.
Yeah, that would separate, at least slow people down a little bit, maybe.
For sure.
If you did that. All right. We still got lots of basketball to talk about. We want to talk about Rich's team. We got to take a break here. We'll be right back. Rich's old team puts up a defensive wall the rest of the nation needs to know about. We're going to talk about it when we come back. Out of the bus. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. Rich, Hall of Fame high school coach, been through the wars. Have you ever seen, though, anything like what happened for your old school, Hilton Head Prep, in a state championship game? And everybody's playing them now.
Right.
They are down, it's 11-11 at halftime,
Correct.
which is, it doesn't say much for the quality of play offensively anyway. And then Hilton Head Prep gets behind its opponent, Christian Academy from upstate, and then throws the defensive wall up, does not allow a single point for the final 14 minutes of the game, and turns an 11-11 halftime game into a 35-15 win. You're smiling, you're happy, you're loving it.
We're proud to be a Dolphin. Coach Barron has done a terrific job with their team. They play a deliberate style, but which works best for them. But defensively, they're solid. I mean, they are really, really good. I don't know if I've ever seen a team be held with no points for 14 minutes. For 8 minutes, yes, I've seen a quarter where a team doesn't score. But in a state championship game, and you hold the team scoreless for 14 minutes, they only scored 4 points in the second half. They scored 11 in the first, 4 in the second. So kudos to Hilton Head Prep and the Dolphins. They did an outstanding job defensively, and they did enough offensively to obviously win the state championship. But that's the kind of style they like, games in the high 30s, low 40s, because that's their style. And defensively, like I said earlier, they're as solid as they can be. Coach Barron's done a terrific job, outstanding, and we're very proud of the Dolphins and Hilton Head Prep basketball, and can't say enough good things about them. Congratulations.
Curry, that reminds you of Dean Smith days at Carolina with the four corners?
With all due respect, please take that off the screen. I'm glad I wasn't at this game, Rich. Sorry. But, I'm all for the Dolphins, but I'm glad I didn't have to watch that abomination. Come on.
I didn't watch it either. I was down visiting my son, and now I'm visiting my college roommate, Dick Domenico, and his wife, Dale, and my wife. We're having a great time. But we did stream the game and watch some of it. And it was, it was pretty amazing to see. I mean, when you think about a state championship, you're thinking about, they're obviously both teams are earned the right to be in a state championship and very deserving of it. And to see a team not be able to score that, it's pretty incredible. But, if you go back to college basketball, UVA playing North Carolina.
Thank you.
North Carolina did a great job defensively. But again, Curry, as much as I can say for North Carolina's defense, UVA can't throw the ball in the ocean. They shot 28% from the floor and 14% from the three-point line. So last week I threw Virginia under the bus. Bob, I wanted kudos to Coach Bennett for to win 20 games with that team is a miracle, because that team couldn't outscore Hilton Head Prep. Unbelievable that could win 20 games offensively. Curry, again, North Carolina played terrific defense, but man, Virginia's awful offensively. They're horrendous. Do you agree?
What, the Virginia-North Carolina game? It's unwatchable.
Virginia's offense.
Virginia's unwatchable. Come on. I want to, speaking of defense, though, a team that is watchable and that, plays their season as a defensive specialist team is Houston. And they've gotten to number one now. They're number one in the country. They beat 2 top 11 teams this week. If we can get back to current college basketball. I watched the Iowa State Houston game, and it was a rock fight. Yeah. Every game in the Big 12 is like this, it seems. And Fran Fraschilla, the former coach who was doing the game, the Houston Iowa State game, he texted me. I texted him. I said, "You got blood sitting on the side? You got any blood on your face?" And he texted me back. He said, the Big 12 has got, the referees have got to take control of this more, because the problem is when some of these Big 12 teams get to the NCAA tournament this year, they're not going to be allowed to play that way. Right. And Houston above all, I don't think they can play that way in the tournament. But they do have a terrific team. As I mentioned, this kid Jamal Shed is terrific. They beat Baylor. To how close this season is, they beat Baylor after they beat Iowa State, and the Baylor center freshman kid named Missy missed a free throw to win the game. So Baylor would have won that game, and Houston got the ball and came down and went overtime, and Houston won in overtime. But that's how close the season is with these teams. It's amazing to me. But I just wanted to put my plug in for the Houston Cougars.
How about after our last week rant on your buddy Rick Pitino, and then his team goes out to Creighton, his unathletic team that just can't play, goes out to Creighton and wins in Omaha. That's pretty amazing.
Well, they did beat Creighton, but it was at Madison Square Garden.
Was it? Okay, I'm sorry.
It was. Yeah, but that's Creighton come off a win, beating Connecticut by 19, and then
2 nights later.
Damn, how about that? That's and then so
I was.
How about Pitino's white outfit? Did you see that? What Pitino wore?
After all the basketball Saturday night, I was watching the Screen Actors Guild Awards, and my favorite TV show that I know Rich watch called The Bear won several awards, and as best comedy. The star of that show is a kid named Jeremy Allen White. He got the Screen Actors Guild Award himself, and he came out in his white suit, and he looked spectacular. I mean, he looked terrific. So then I turn on the TV the next day, and I see another guy in a white suit, and it's Rick Pitino. He comes out, and this is from the Rick Pitino playbook. He kills his team, he destroys his team, and then he apologizes, and then he comes out and he goes. He said himself he went to the Armani store the day before, and he got his tailor to put together this new suit of his, because he used to wear a white suit, and he said that one didn't fit, so he had to go to Armani. Oh my goodness, so sorry for Rick. And he wears the white suit in the Garden. And now, as his players said, I mean, we can't lose if this guy's wearing a white suit. We got to win this game. The amazing thing about that game is, Rich, and I agree, Creighton, of course, was coming off the big win against Connecticut. They have to fly all the way across the country and play in Madison Square Garden at noon. And Rick comes out in his white suit. And St. John's took 80 shots in that game. 80 shots. You know how many threes they took? They took 8. Of the 80 shots they took, 8 were threes. They made 2 threes. And they just beat Creighton with this assortment of mid-range. They got guys who can shoot the mid-range shot. Right. They don't have any three-point shooters. And this is the guy. Well, I don't know. Creighton should have had on black uniform. That would have been great if they'd have come in all black.
Patino was in white. Maybe it was just a black and white game. I don't know. Not even in color.
Patino looked like a snowball.
When they invented the 3-point shot the first season, Pitino was at Providence, and he was the maestro of the 3-point shot. This is the guy. He rode the 3-point shot with a kid named Billy Donovan, who became, of course, a great college and pro coach, to the Final Four with just shooting threes. And now he's got another team. So, the guy can coach, but the white suit, it's a little too much. I mean, he's trying too hard. If he was tan, you can get away with the white suit. But the only thing paler in that white suit was Rick's face. I mean, even the eighth writer said he looked. Even the wire service. Here we go. We're gonna come. Here we go. Great, Justin Jarrett, right on it. I mean, even the wire service writer said he looked like Colonel Sanders. But what he looks like to me, he looks like the ice cream man. To me, he looks like a fill-in, the ice cream man's fill-in older uncle that came to fill in for him. Spreading out this ice cream
around. And he is a show for him. You watch him on the sidelines. Every time the ball is being advanced, he's walking down the sidelines, to the scorer's table.
Well, he's
like, are you on Broadway? What are you doing? You just sit down.
Rich, he's done that. Rich, he's done that for 30 years.
All his life, yeah.
One of the guys sitting courtside that he was walking in front of was the actor Steve Sciarippa, who was in The Sopranos. He played Bobby Bacciarelli, the hitman. Okay. Big hitman guy, Sopranos, right courtside for Rich, for Pitino. And of course, in the midst of all of Pitino's problems, moaning about his teams laterally and then coming and apologizing and in the white suit. In the midst of all this, one of the St. John's alumnus, a.k.a. Sugar Daddy, a guy named Mike Rapoli, He came out and he vowed he's going to pay $7 million to the NIL this year for St. John's, no matter what it takes. He said, I'm going to spend more than any Big East alumnus in the whole conference. So, I mean, Mike Rapoli, he made his millions in health water or whatever, vitamin water. I mean, talk about the Sopranos. Come on.
He's a paisan. What can you say?
What's the story?
We got to go to break. But I want to ask Curry real quickly. You sure that favorite show of yours isn't Cocaine Bear, not Bear?
No, they don't do much cocaine in that. The Cocaine Bear was a movie. I didn't even see it. Did you see that?
Okay. Is it up for any Oscars? I don't know.
Cocaine Bear, no.
No? Okay.
No.
We'll get back. We're going to talk a little LeBron James. Everybody's got an opinion on LeBron James. We're going to hear the ones from here as we go under the bus. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. All right, Curry, you've been wanting to light this one up. LeBron James making hits again, still scoring lots of points. Still, I think, the greatest player in NBA history, but we can argue that. But he certainly does not lack for opinions of his own, and you have some opinions on his opinions.
Well, for a couple of weeks now, he's been spouting off. You know, he can't keep his mouth shut about anything. But he was front and center at the All-Star weekend, talking about everything and just making just incredibly stupid comments. I mean, they asked him at one point. Remember, there was some trade speculation that he was going to be traded to the Golden State Warriors. This was during NBA All-Star weekend. And he asked him about it. He said, LeBron, did you know about this? He said, oh, no, I hadn't heard anything. I only heard about it when you guys heard about it. That's patently ridiculous. You know, if there's anything that goes by that, his agent, Rich Paul, and LeBron, they talk about everything. LeBron coaches the Lakers. Let's be any general manager. So for him to say he knew nothing about that is just ridiculous. Then they ask him about, are you going to do a farewell tour? You know, like Kareem did. And unlike some other players who just they went there into the merry night. And he said, oh, well, it's 50-50. You know, I'm not real comfortable with the tension. What? LeBron said he's not sure he's going to do his 50 the farewell tour, getting all the gifts at every stop because he's not too comfortable with the tension. Come on, what are you talking about? What are you talking? Then they asked him about Bronny James, about his son. And he said, well, are you still wanting to play with, he keeps coming out all the time talking about how he wants to play with Bronny. And this gets speculation of, well, is he going to stay with the Lakers? And what about Bronny and Bronny, the freshman at Southern Cal? And he said, no, I'm going to leave it up to the kid. It's all about the kid. It's what he decides. Really? Come on, LeBron, come on.
He's finally figured out he can't play in the NBA. He's not good enough to play in the NBA. That's what he's finally figured out. Yeah. Really?
Well, Rich,
in college, how is he going to be in the NBA?
But Rich, has he figured this out? Because when the college season started, in the preseason in the NBA, LeBron said, Bronny's as good as anybody in the G League.
Right.
I mean, that's what he says, and he keeps kind of talking about it. But as we know,
watched his son play at USC. I think he figured out he's not that good. And
USC played UCLA Saturday night and won in an upset at UCLA. But Bronny James he can't start on the terrible USC team is under 500 even after they beat UCLA.
Right.
He can't start on that team. He gets about 10 minutes a game. He gets about 5 points, a game. And the funny thing is, I watched that game and Bronny played okay, but he wasn't in crunch time.
Yeah.
And a couple guys wrote stories about how Bronny had an impact on the game. Look, he can jump and he can defend. That's about it. And he can't shoot at all. He can't shoot, and he's not an NBA body yet. And I mean, for LeBron to keep forcing this into the public eye, somebody came out with their draft picks, speculation on the draft, Rich, yesterday,
Yeah.
and two of these drafting has him not going in the 24 draft at all, going
Right.
second round in the 25 draft. And of course, LeBron has to come out and say something about that and say, "Get
But he
off
doesn't
my
like the
son."
attention.
Yeah, get off my son. Don't, he doesn't need you talking about him and all. Well, we're not, nobody's talking about him except LeBron, actually.
Right. That's
Let the kid be a kid, but
Yeah.
make sure you pay him and get him some minutes at Southern Cal, of all places, huh? Interesting
Speaking of
stuff.
which,
Yes.
speaking of which, Bob, let's move to your sport and forcing a kid into the national spotlight. What is Tiger Woods doing, letting Charlie Woods at 15 try to qualify for a PGA tournament? I mean,
Got, got no
what's
problem
going
with
on?
it. Got no
Well,
problem with him letting him try. I got no problem with
Bob,
the
Bob,
tournament
Bob, Bob,
saying,
Bob. The
"Hey,
kid, the
take
kid,
a
the
shot."
kid has
Now,
never. The kid has never played a junior tournament. First of all, he doesn't play junior tournaments. Why is he trying to play a PGA tournament? He's not. He's not one of the best 15-year-olds in Florida. I mean,
yeah, well, state champion. I mean, they played on the state championship team in high school already. Hey,
Bobby
I got
shot
no problem with.
Bobby shot 86 and he made a 12. Yeah, first of all, to make a 12 and shoot 86, that's pretty impressive, actually, right
Yeah,
there. But
yeah,
did you see there were all these rowdy crowds around
yeah.
and they were upsetting him? And some grandmother came up and wanted to get a date with Charlie for her granddaughter. I mean, this is what Tiger. And where was Tiger? I mean, he's nowhere. He's with him every step of the way. He didn't show up. I think because he knew it's going to be. I don't know. It's just
Well,
I would
I mean,
say.
maybe that's dad teaching his son a lesson. And let's talk about dads and sons. Maybe that's teaching him a lesson. Hey, I'm going to leave you alone. I'm going to stay out of the way, because if Tiger would have shown up, Tiger would have been the story and
Well,
not his
that's
son.
that's for sure. But I just
Hey,
think it's another father forcing his kid in the spotlight when he's not. He's not really ready. I just think
I think
it
I
seems
think the
like the
kid did
same
it.
thing.
Rich, you coached your kid.
yeah.
Tell us about that dynamic.
Well, obviously my son and I have a good relationship, and coaching him wasn't that difficult, honestly, because he was realistic. He understood. Like his sophomore year, I said, Kevin, you could be on the JV team and play all the time, or I can bring you up to varsity, and you're not going to get a lot of playing time. He said, Dad, I'd rather be on the varsity. So he knew his role, and he didn't play a whole lot his sophomore year. His junior year, he played more, and then his senior year, he started. The only person that was on my back about his playing time was his mother. I mean, he never said anything about it. He understood his role, and he was a good player. His senior year, he made the All-Star team, and we had a good year. And it was actually fun coaching him. But your son has to be willing to be coachable. Some kids are not, because they don't want to hear their dad tell them what to do. I have a friend who coached in Charleston, and he got out of coaching. He retired from coaching because he couldn't connect with his son. He said, "I want my son to enjoy his high school days. I'm going to just step down from being his coach." So some kids are open to it, some are not. Kevin was. I really enjoyed it. I remember coming home after we lost in the playoffs and thinking, "Wow, I'm never going to be able to coach my son again." And I really I mean, I felt bad. I felt like I don't have this opportunity anymore to do this. And the moments go by so fast, and you want to treasure those moments. So it does work, but also I've seen it where it doesn't work. And I
Well, can
think,
I?
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Rich. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well,
This
I was
is
just going to say
fascinating to me because
I was just going to say the father has to realize when to step away and pull back, and then when he's got to kind of get on him. And the kid has to be open to listening to what the dad has to say, or say, "Dad, that's I get it, I get it." And every kid has their own personality, and every dad has to realize, like I said before in the show, as a coach, you have to understand what makes a player play to the best of his ability. Our job is to get into their heads and understand that. And even with our own child, we have to understand what's going to make him play and what's going to work for him. And as long as my wife doesn't jump me about him not playing as much as she was hoping he would, everything else is cool.
Well, this is fascinating to me because personally, I was a spectator at some of these games, and it's fascinating to me to watch a father-son dynamic in games, and it didn't look that easy. Just watching you and Kevin, it didn't look that easy. It didn't look that fun because, and I'm thinking, I had daughters, and one was a tennis player, and I would go to these junior tennis tournaments, and I would die. I mean, I would die watching her play because when she doesn't win the point, or when she makes a mistake, I'm going crazy. When she wins, I'm so spectacular. And to coach a guy, I just want to say, at Sports Illustrated, I did a couple of stories on Pete Maravich when he was coached by his dad, Press,
Right.
and on Allie McGuire when he was coached by his father, Al
Oh,
McGuire.
yes. Yep. Yep.
And Allie McGuire was the point guard on a team of mostly black players, and we put him on the cover one season. Put Allie McGuire on the cover, saying he was the spark plug of Marquette or something, and it caused amazing problems in the Marquette team. Al told me with his black players, because all of them were better, more accomplished players than Allie McGuire, and they were, it was a real problem in those days. And to get back to me, um, I died 100 deaths watching my daughter play. Rich, to coach your own son. I mean, let's get even more personal. I mean, when you'd lose and go home, now you're a dad, right? You're
Right.
you're having
Absolutely.
dinner with your wife and your son. What was a big difference from losses and wins? And how did you were you a dad at home, or were you still a coach? And how did he address you as coach or dad, or what was that? How did that all that work?
Well, I think on the court, on the court, it was coach. At home, it was dad. You know, you had to back off sometimes after a loss, after a tough loss, and I had my moments when teaching moments, as they call them, and say this is what we could have done differently and better and so forth. And obviously, wins are a heck of a lot better than losses when you come home. A lot of times we lost. I was he would get home a lot earlier than I would, because I would stay after and talk to this assistant coaches, and of course close down the gym and so forth. So a lot of times when I got home after a loss, he was already in bed. He knew he didn't want to listen to me, so he already be in bed because of that. But
Well, would you
I
take the would you take the losses home? Would you take the losses home, and would Karen go, "Hey, look at a-hole. You got to stay away from our son, and not, or you got to coach him more.
no,
You got to play him more."
yeah, I did take. I carry losses on my chest a lot. I mean, it was funny. One time when I came home after a game, and my wife didn't attend this game, and I walked in. I said, aren't you going to ask if we won or lost?" And she said, "I can tell by the way you're walking if you won or lost." They I don't know. Kevin was pretty good about, he's pretty consistent with his um, attitude about everything. He did, he'd get down obviously after a loss, but he handled it as well as better than I did. To be honest with you, better than I did. But he was good. It was a I if you could coach your kid, it's a great experience. It really is. It's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, but to be able to do that and be with him every day in a gym, and to teach him and his teammates and his friends was a lot of fun. I treasure those moments. And I got a quick story about Al McGuire. Curry, you know the story. When one of the players, Allie, was starting, and one of the players came in and said, "Coach McGuire, I'm better than Allie. I think I should be starting. I mean, I should be starting over him." And he said, "Son, Allie's my son, and he will continue to start." I mean, it was based on him being his son, and that's the reason he
Yeah,
gave. That's the explanation,
yeah.
not because he was a better ball handler, or shooter, or defender. It was because it was his son. He said. So, but people, especially at the high school level, parents got to understand. I mean, if your son is, sometimes coaches don't put their kids in because they feel like they're going to have a backlash. Like, why is he playing his son? If he's deserving, you should play him. You should definitely play him. Don't hold him back because you think other people are going to think negative towards you as a coach or a coaching staff. If he's deserving, play him.
Well, that's the
Obviously,
problem. As a coach, did you ever face favoritism charges from, not charges, but from other parents of other parents
No,
of other kids or anything like that?
no, because his sophomore year, he didn't play a whole lot. His junior year, he played more. He didn't start until his senior year, and he was deserving to start that year, without a doubt. So I don't think anybody could say that. I mean, I have to say this: we were in a Christmas tournament, and we were fortunate to win it. And they came afterwards and said, "Okay, who do you want to nominate for MVP and all tournament?" And Kevin could have been the MVP of that tournament. He had a really two good games, and I said to him, I mentioned the other player instead. I just felt as a dad, I didn't want to, even though my assistant coaches felt, Coach, I think he was deserving of. I said, I get it, but I just think this other player who played extremely well too. So we gave it to him. So that might have been kind of a thing that being a dad, you really couldn't just promote your kid to the highest, even though
So
maybe.
what did Karen say about that?
She gave me the stink eye. She gave me the stink eye.
What did Kevin think about it?
He made all tournament. He made all tournament, so he was happy with that. He never said, Dad, I thought I was deserving the MVP. He never said that, but I think he was thrilled that he made the all tournament team.
Good stuff. We went way long this week, but that's all right. We'll go way long next week, probably just well. I want to thank our producer, Justin Jarrett. For Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick, thanks a lot for joining us Under the Bus.
See you guys. Stay